Then, like I say, what they proceeded to do after that was, of course, to try and make it so women couldn't have a car, couldn't have a driver's license, couldn't have a job, couldn't own property, or couldn't do anything. And basically, it was like a boys' club. And in order to do all that, because people knew what they were doing, they had to basically torture and hurt or kill or harass female judges and female police officers to get them out of office so they could basically make it a males only or men only club. And like I said, it was just for a short time with basically Nixon and Jimmy Carter, or Jimmy Carter and Nixon, or something like that, or Jimmy Carter and JFK, where they were like in love together and wanted to be together. That's why they would be male president, vice president of America. So, you find out how retarded and stupid this is and just ridiculous. And like they had, in order, they were trying to conform to my rules and get in there. And then there was, of course, the lie detector test, which they had to pass, which they couldn't pass. So, anyway, though, so yeah, they kept trying, kept trying, kept trying, kept doing this, kept doing that, kept trying to lie to me, and it didn't really work. So, I mean, kinda, but not really. So, and like I say, whatever, I mean, I still own America, I still named America, and it was just them trying to do this, trying to do that, and it's just, and then they were trying, and then they started harassing women like crazy, and basically trying to force women to have sex with them, and trying to do this and trying to do that, and basically running the America like their own little private boys club. And basically, it's just a bunch of 40-year-old men or 30-year-old men acting like teenagers. So, like I said, I don't really know. I don't really care. But a lot of the things that that are considered national security and top secret, and basically they figure that in 5 years or 10 years or 25 years, it wouldn't really matter or whatever, and they could do whatever they wanted. And they but the thing was, what was as they were trying to rape these women, trying to do this and trying to do that, and besides, like I said, JFK or someone was really jealous of these women because these women didn't really love the congressmen or didn't love the people that were giving them large amounts of money. They loved their boyfriends, or they loved who they loved. So and anyway, whatever. That didn't go so well with Nixon or JFK. Like he was the kind of guy that would carpet bomb or bomb any city just to get a date, basically. And and they were also trying to put that on me, or trying to say that they were actually Lucifer, that was Lucifer doing all this stuff, and it was like I had nothing to do with it. So it was their own retardedness and their own stupidity, and in fact I uncovered it and figured it out and found out about it and was like, wow, wow, does anybody else see this? Anyway, it was a whole behind closed doors policy. What happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors. Just a bunch of Richard Nixon, JFK, and a bunch of sex, and which led to Mr. I'll never die, I'll never grow old, where they had to have technology, they had to outdo it, and basically, like I said, Rodney and Rick Bush and a bunch of other people that were supposedly so powerful, whatever, and they were just lying about everything. Everything was a lie. They had no power. They had no technology. They weren't in control of the technology. They weren't in control of much. And it was just a bunch of lies. So, anyway, like I say, whatever. You know, that led to carpet bombing and a whole bunch of death because Germany and China and Russia were all going to do something about basically what was happening in America or what was happening with my country. While they're gonna kill the kid, blah, 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 they weren't like Germany and China. I had nothing to fear from Germany and China other than like my own dishonor, my own disgrace for maybe okaying like the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and a lot of people said we're not going to let you take the fall for this because of the fact that you really didn't do it. They did it actually before you ordered it or something like that. So it's like okay, and they needed my consent in order to even do it in the first place or something like that. And then they did a lot more bombing and a lot more cover bombing, a lot more death, and we're blah 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 and fighting a losing battle basically. Where pretty much Japan, China, and Russia, and basically probably even the Middle East had to basically do something about them. So anyway, I don't really know. I really don't care. It's a bunch of free will and what's called. But I mean, Rodney, Rick Bush, and a bunch of other people were responsible for it because, like I said, I was supposed to come out and tell you all this stuff when I was like 9 years old or 8 years old, and so you'd know who I was and who owned America and who named America. But they were doing this thing, and like I said, it led to basically recording devices and sound devices in all the houses of all the Republicans and all the Democrats. So if they ever said a word, they could do something about it. And like some people accidentally would say something during sex or say something to their wife offhanded something, and then the next day they would get killed or something like that. It's basically you didn't want to be a Republican, you didn't want to be a Democrat or a senator or anything in the past. Like they were the most psycho and most ridiculous and most crazy and most horrible, like making the Bloods and the Crips and even the Mexican gangs look trite, in comparison. And like I said, it got so bad where Rick Bush, my next door neighbor, the Joe's Witness dude, was actually he actually had the people who listened to the recordings killed because of what he heard or what was said. So anyway, because I don't know, because they were telling about they told about something. So even the people who listened to the recordings of the people who accidentally said something were killed. So they were going through going through people like crazy because the people that heard the recordings would hear the sensitive information or whatever, and then they would be killed as well. So anyway, it was this giant thing of paranoia that was basically around Congress and the senators and basically Washington D.C. and I think it only involved Washington D.C. and the Congress and everything like that, and it had to do with piracy and like Watergate and basically the White Star submarines or the White submarines, not the White Star because they weren't really White Star. They were civilian submarines that I was putting up for rental because I thought people might want to rent them and might want to use them. And people would have, and a lot of people when they found out about it probably would have loved to have gone down in an old vintage submarine basically and wandered around and done all kinds of stuff because it's fun to cruise around in a submarine, and stuff like that, and there was civilian rental, and you just had to pay for the fuel basically. I was fixing them up, and I was basically giving a gift to basically society and civilization and the people around because submarines had always been a part of my life, and I love them, and I invented them, and I thought that people would love to experience a submarine of their own. Of course, they could only go down to 100 or 400 foot because I didn't want them going down any deeper, because they could start to bump into things and stuff like that. Without sonar or the advanced stuff that all the other submarines have, it'd be dangerous for you to just be wandering around. So anyway, though, and that's why we put the limit on 100 to 400 foot on the stuff for the submarines. So anyway, though, but they could actually go down to about 1,200 feet or 2,000 some odd hundred, something like that. A lot deeper, basically. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, there's all these lies and all this other stuff, and and basically, that's why it's national security and top secret. My Nixon impression. And it's just like from a short time while I was dead, or at least not around, and like I said, Rodney Briley and Rick Bush and a bunch of other people fell victim to the Republicans and Democrats. And like I said, what nobody realized is that they were just pocketing the money that was there's plenty of tax money, there's plenty of money going into the government for all these programs and services, and the way that they were actually making money, and they, like I said, the ever-increasing bribes and ever-increasing payoffs to people, basically, to women and children and people, and basically blah blah, and they ever-increasingly had to basically cut back on programs and steal ever-increasing more amounts of money, which is why there is no money for a space program or the Apollo program, and why the Apollo program was a dog and a radio show. Because all the money was going for what's called, but of course, like I said, with Russia and Germany and all these other countries, and even the Middle East had rockets and space and astronauts. Basically, so even the Middle East had a space program going, and basically they just went, and I don't know what happened to the Middle Eastern space program, but basically they were going after them as well, because like I said, America or the U.S. Congress or U.S. or the Congress didn't have a space program, didn't have money for a space program. So they decided to just steal a space program, I guess. So anyway, like I say, whatever. It's considered national security, top secret. Yeah, and there are many reasons why I impeached or kicked out and actually was going to have Nixon killed. And I had JFK killed, if it's all true. And like I said, technically, what was supposed to happen there is basically that Jackie Kennedy was actually supposed to be killed, and JFK would be horrified. Oh my God, those damn Reds, those damn Russians, or those damn Chinese, name a group. I mean, those damn tree huggers, they killed her. But like I said, the person who was actually going to be pulling the trigger, of course, was Lee Harvey Oswald, and he made a choice. He decided not to kill her. He loved her, he cared about her, and saw her as an innocent victim and shot JFK instead. Which was not what he was supposed to do, I think. And like I said, that's another reason why the Russians and the Chinese fought, and they all had reason to have him killed or whatever. So anyway, it was supposed to be, they were going after JFK, but they accidentally hit Jackie, or they took out Jackie to send us a message. Oh my God. Yeah. So it was all just a game, and it was all you might as well have scripted out, basically, the U.S. Congress, basically. Almost like a script or a bad movie. A B movie. Anyway, so, yeah, and basically I would tell you all this stuff and just come clean about it and basically say declassify it. It's my government. It's my was whatever, and it should be declassified. Of course, technically, Congress thought they were more powerful than me. The name of America and everything, so... Yeah, like I say, whatever, the Middle East will eventually do something about it, or basically someone, China or Japan, and basically, eventually the United States Congress will be dissolved, and because it was just a sex party. Like the Republican Party was just a party. A bunch of people embezzling money, spending, doing drugs and having sex with 15-year-olds and cheerleaders. And that's all the Republican Party or the Democratic Party was. Exactly just that, a party.